Welcome to Murder with the Missus. I'm Darren.
And I'm Amy, and today we're going to tell you about Lauren Agee.
Don't forget to smash that like button and go and check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and Facebook. Like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to tell your friends. Do not forget to tell your friends.
Don't.
And we hope you guys had a really good Christmas.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
Yep. And hope you guys have a great and happy and safe New Year's.
Yes, I hope you were safe. Please be safe. Now, here is a listener request. Thank you. And you guys keep them coming.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, we love to hear about
these. We do
cases.
get requests.
A lot of requests, actually. And it's to get the word out there. And this one right here is not a new one, but it is suspicious enough that it's still sitting unresolved. Or is it? Some say this was just a terrible accident. And most say that there's way too many unanswered questions for it to be ruled anything but suspicious. So let's get into it. 21-year-old Lauren sounds fun. Big into music and dancing, not just at home or in the car at stoplights, but in high school she was a member of the award-winning Hendersonville High Golden Girls dance team for all 4 years of school. And she got a dance scholarship to Bethel University. She did transfer to Vol State to study criminal justice. And she had a huge heart, love for others, always had your back, and stood up for the underdog. She was said to be spontaneous, full of life, and colored outside the lines. She was living in Hendersonville, Tennessee with her mom, Sherry, and her stepdad, Mike. He says Lauren was a Mustang, hard to put a bridle on. He had been in her life since she was 3, and she had just gone through the teenage years of sass, but they were in a phase of being friends now, so they'd got through the hard times, right to the good. She was only 5'4" and around 100 to 115 pounds, so he says she was a little dynamite. Lauren had told them that she was going to go to Wakefest this weekend. Now, Wakefest is a wakeboarding event that's on a lake, so it's a whole weekend at Center Hill Lake where people go to camp, they watch the Wakefest competition during the day, and then they party all night, pretty much.
Yeah, because, and that sounds like a great time. Because whenever you asked me, have you ever heard of Wakefest, I was like, you mean like the morning?
Like funeral services?
Funeral service wake? And she goes, no. So I missed that one, but.
Well, it's because of what we do.
Yeah. She's like, no, when they wakeboard on lake, I'm like, oh, yeah, that'd be fun.
That is fun. So people go into this big competition. It's really a good time. And they still do it to this day. Now, she had been invited by her friend Samantha, but was riding to the lake with Hannah. Sherry was not a fan of this because Lauren and Hannah were on again, off again friends, or she called them fair weather friends. However you want to say it, they were in and out of each other's lives. So Sherry was just needing to make sure that this was a good idea. Lauren assured her that there were other people there that she knew and that she would be staying in a cabin. They were going to be safe. All was good. And they were heading out Friday, July 24th of 2015. And Sherry was coming home when Lauren and Hannah were leaving for the lake. So they all stopped in the road and Lauren gave Sherry a hug goodbye. She even ran back and gave her a second one. Sherry obviously told her, be safe, have fun, all the things. Lauren had been seeing a man named Chase for about 8 months, but he was not going to Wakefest. He had other stuff to do. But the plan was for Lauren to come back on Saturday at about 6 because Chase had planned a party with some of his old friends and he was going to introduce Lauren to them. The girls get to Patesboard Marina and there's a bar there called Fish Lips.
Goodness. These damn names of these bars.
You don't like that name?
We had the Old Tuna Saloon in one case, and then you got Fish Lips, and then you had another one. What was it?
Richard Craniums.
Craniums.
Listen, you got to have a sense of humor. You're going to run a bar. Fish Lips.
Oh, the names they come up with.
But they had a little store there, too, to sell stuff that you might need or maybe forgot to pack, or like sunscreen, deodorant, ice.
Yeah, and it was all probably, triple the price.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Supply and demand. If you need it and you don't want to drive 30, 45 minutes to Walmart, you're just going to get it. Because when you get to campsites, you don't want to leave. You're there. The whole point is to relax and not have to run into town every 5 seconds.
Not me. I will make that trip.
Save that money.
To save some money.
That's great. Now, there is a pier with roughly 10 boats on either side, docked, and a big houseboat at the end. Looking up from that houseboat, you see a cliff. It's angled, so it's roughly 45 feet high on one side and 90 feet on the other. Lauren finds out that they're not staying in that cabin. They're staying at the top of that cliff. Now, to get over there, they had to take a canoe. Now, sometimes in interviews, they refer to this as a kayak, but it was a canoe. And they have to take that from the cliff to the marina back and forth. At the cliff, it's very steep, so there's a thin rope strung up to guide you to the top. There are 2 campsites up there with a gully in between. One campsite had like a tent, some tarps, 4 hammocks, and a lot of chairs. The other had 2 hammocks and just a couple of chairs. And the people who set this up were Hannah's new boyfriend, Aaron, and his friend, Bricks. Another guy staying there was Aaron's friend, Cody. And we know that Hannah and Aaron slept in the tent, and that left Lauren delegated to sharing a hammock with Cody. Now, she wasn't too big of a fan of this because she had a boyfriend, she didn't know Cody, and now she's laying in a hammock with him. That's not a lot of space, and there's going to be some snuggles. And they called this hammock an Eno, in case that clarifies for anyone. I'm not sure if it's like just a brand or a specific type, but
yeah,
it was an Eno. And when I say the place that this hammock was hung is precarious at best, that is the understatement of the year. This was a hell to the no area, so it literally was strung up on the edge of this cliff.
Yeah, I've seen like videos where they hang like these little cliff tents.
Yeah, like they're stuck into the side of the cliff.
Yeah, it's like it's like a wedged hanger, and then they're like hooked to it, and everything. I'm like, fuck that.
Nope, no, thank you.
No,
not today. But this is how they're all set up. So Friday night, they are at Darren's favorite bar, Fish Lips. Lauren sees her ex-boyfriend Clint there with his new girlfriend Callie. So Lauren had only packed flip-flops, thought she was staying in a tent and was going to be comfortable. So now she's lugging up this cliff in flip-flops. She's sleeping in a hammock next to a guy she don't know. And now here she runs into her ex-boyfriend and his new girlfriend. So she's really not having the best of times. But also there was Samantha, the one who invited Lauren to begin with. And she came with Cassie. Now, Cassie, there's a lot of people here. Cassie had quite the history with Aaron. They had a toxic, physically abusive relationship. So back in January, a judge had told them to break up. They had physically fought, literally got into a fight in front of her family at a birthday party. So Aaron wasn't supposed to come, and he came anyways. And they got into this big brawl right there. So according to Cassie, they were still secretly seeing each other up till that morning when they left to go to Wakefest. They didn't go together, of course, because they didn't want anybody to see them together. But it was, supposedly they were together. But she walked in with Hannah. So Cassie tells her that she could he walked in with Hannah. So Cassie tells her that, we've been texting. We're still together. I can show you. I have texts on my phone out in the car because they're spotty service. So nobody's really carrying their phones around. Can't charge them anyways most of the time. So she's like, just come out to the car with me and I'll show you.
Don't go outside.
Oh, they're going to go outside.
Don't do it.
Now, once outside, Hannah allegedly grabbed Cassie from behind by the hair, pulling her to the ground and hitting her.
Told her not to go outside.
She didn't listen.
I guess I didn't say it loud enough.
You did whisper.
Yeah.
She didn't hear you.
Don't go outside.
Don't do it. Well, she did it.
Run.
But you would think Cassie's the one who was like, come outside, but it was Hannah's the one who grabbed her. So I guess she was just preemptively striking. I don't know. I know. So Cassie leaves the marina. She's done. She don't want nothing to do with this. But all Samantha's stuff was still in that car. So Lauren's like, you can just stay with us. Come up here and stay with us. And she's like, well, they walked to the end of the pier and she's like, where are we staying? And she's like, oh, up there. And she's like, great. So it's important here to note that when they were on that pier, she's like, how are we supposed to get over there? And Lauren's like this. And she yells for somebody to come and get them. And someone yells back that they're going to be there in 7 minutes because that's how long it takes to row the canoe from the cliff to the marina. Now, the Wakefest competition was about 6 miles from the cliff. It is reported that Chris had a boat there and they took it to Wakefest on Saturday. At some point on Saturday when they got back, according to the cliff campers, Lauren did a cliff dive, but she hit her head and possibly knocked herself out for a few seconds. And she had bruises like all over her arms and stuff from it. She took some pain meds, just like over-the-counter stuff, from what's been said. And Samantha decided she was done. She's ready to go home. She had a kid at home and she wanted to get back to. And Lauren wasn't having a good time because this is just like not her weekend. And so she's like, you know what? I'm going to go with you. But she went to find Clint. And when Samantha didn't see her at 5:30 that evening, she texted Hannah and Lauren that she was leaving, even though she knew that they might not get the text because, remember, spotty service. But she wanted them to see it. Like, if you know how you don't have a signal and then you get a signal and it all comes through. She just wanted to let them know. And she told Lauren to let her know when she got home because she wasn't waiting anymore.
Yeah. No, she definitely wasn't waiting around anymore.
No, she was done.
No.
She was out. There was an off-duty cop from another county working security named Chris. He remembers seeing Hannah, Aaron, and Lauren at Fish Lips. And Chris, the camper, had passed out on the houseboat at the pier after he'd been drinking all day. But Lauren, studying criminal justice, ran up to Chris, the cop. She seemed more outgoing than the other two, according to him, but she was asking him all about being in law enforcement. He remembers them because of that, of course, and the fact that they had a 6-month-old German Shepherd puppy with them that we find out later was Aaron's emotional support dog. Her name was Virginia, in case you're wondering. We know that around 10 to 11 that night, Lauren texted her friend Jade asking her to come and pick her up. She wasn't having a good time, but that didn't end up happening. We know that she ran into some of Clint's family. That's the ex-boyfriend. They all got along, so she hung out with Evan and his mom in Fish Lips. At around midnight or so, Mom decided to call it a night and go back to her houseboat. She left her credit card with Evan to buy Lauren's drinks. Now, the tab was reportedly only about $35, including the tip, which was weird to me because with how expensive it is to go to the bar, well, they had like one drink. You should drink of water.
Maybe two.
Maybe two. Anyway, Lauren did ask if she could stay with them that night on the boat. And he said his mom wouldn't care, but Clint and Callie were staying there, so...
Unless it was like bucket of beer night.
I mean, I'm sure they had some kind of specials because of Wakefest. Yeah, I bet. But like I said, Callie and Clint were going to be staying on the boat too, so she decided she didn't want that either. So they all leave Fish Lips, and Lauren went down the pier while Clint, Callie, and Evan went up to the RVs to hang out with some other people. And there are some conflicting stories going forward. Hannah would go on to say that Lauren ran into Clint and he either pushed her away or walked away from her. Clint did say that earlier that evening, Lauren was walking in his direction and he changed direction, just like saw her coming and was like, you gotta go. Then, leaving Fish Lips that night, she walked out with Evan, but that was as close as they ever got to each other. He said he never touched her and never talked to her. So he definitely didn't push her away. He definitely didn't, well, he did walk away from her though, I guess.
Yeah, but not with his new girlfriend right there.
Yeah, no, he's not going to go talk to her.
Yeah.
Like, hey, please hold on, babe. I'm going to go talk to my
It's like
ex.
a death wish.
He wanted to have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Now, he would later say that he was focusing on his new relationship and he had actually even blocked Lauren on his phone and stuff. The conflicting stories don't stop there. There was an issue over whether Lauren even came back to camp that night. And we'll get into that a little more in a minute, but yes, she did go back to camp. Chris the cop knows that they all, including Chris the camper, canoed back to the cliff. So they went and got him off the houseboat and they all went back to the cliff. Now the canoe they had was only a 3-person canoe, so it took them a couple of trips to get over there. And this was sometime between 2:30 and 3:30 a.m. Sometime before 8 the next morning, or I guess later that morning, Hannah comes out of the tent and only sees Chris the camper in the hammock. She asked him where Lauren was, and he said she got up at some point but never came back. Hannah thinks that she must have went to pee, so they had a designated spot to use the bathroom where you'd have to hold on to a tree branch so you didn't fall. I guess I'd put that in the problem category. Maybe that's me. She went over there but didn't see Lauren. Also, Lauren's flip-flops, phone, everything she had was at the camp. And now imagine climbing that cliff in flip-flops. Like, you're not going to do it without them. Even with flip-flops, it's a shitty experience, but you're not just going to leave them there and walk down the rocks. That's to be worse. While Hannah is checking the pee spot, she hears the guys start jumping off the cliff. So she goes down and gets the canoe and goes to pick up the jumper. So they jump off and then somebody brings the canoe around, loads them up and hauls them back over. After 30 minutes or so, they decide to head to Wakefest. Now at the pier over at that little store, she comes up to Clint and Evan. They're over there getting ice. And she asks them if they've seen Lauren, telling them that she didn't come back to camp that night.
But she did go back to camp that night.
But she did go back to camp that night, right?
That's what I thought.
Well, we know that, but they didn't. She goes on and heads out to Wakefest, and they come back that afternoon. At 4:30, Lynn and his son were fishing by the cliff. He looks over into the cove and sees a bright color, like a unnaturally bright color for the scenery. Lynn couldn't let it go, so he asked his son, hey, what do you think that is floating over there in the water? He thought someone must have thrown something out, so they take the boat over there, and as they get closer, they realize it's a body. The bright color was Lauren's hot pink shorts. Lynn's first instinct was to help her, to get her out of the water, but his son is an EMT, so he knew. He told Lynn it was too late, and they didn't need to touch her. They went up and met the wildlife people and took them to the body, and then had to answer a few questions. Of course.
Wow.
Dun,
That's
dun,
crazy.
dun.
That's crazy. Well, and now let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsors. We had a different ad idea the other day.
But that all changed when we heard from someone who lives in an apartment and their washer went out. They went to the laundromat to do 2 loads of laundry, and it cost over $21 for 2 loads. That didn't include detergent and fabric softener. Plus, they had to lug a laundry basket up flights of stairs.
Stop going through the hassle. Stop wasting money and go to My Laundry Solutions, the #1 choice for washers and dryer rental.
If you live in the areas of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Springfield and Joplin, Missouri, Little Rock, Arkansas, or Sherman, Dallas, Houston, and Lubbock, Texas, go to your leasing office, go to mylaundrysolutions.com, or call 800-535-4411 today. No credit check, free service, professional installation. And your account is available online. Leave the laundromat to Weird Larry and 3C.
Don't miss out on great prices and great service.
Yeah.
My Laundry Solutions.
Laundry Solutions. That was beautiful.
That was awesome.
Okay. So the police get there, and when they get to Lauren, 2 guys in a canoe came paddling up. It was Aaron and Chris. They asked the police if they found their friend. This stuck out to people who actually gave a shit because they're not really making a scene. Of course, anytime law enforcement is on the scene, people are going to pay attention. But them immediately popping up and being like, did you find my friend? What friend? What friend that's missing? You haven't reported a friend missing. When did she go missing? Oh, this morning? And then you went on to Wakefest? I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. The cops questioned the guys. They go back to the camp so they can show the cops where they'd been staying and so they can get their stuff. And there are pictures reportedly of Aaron and Hannah inside the crime scene tape. So the cops go up there and tape it off, but they're still letting these people into the scene. They take Aaron, Hannah, and Chris on the boat back to dry land. And Aaron reportedly tells the other 2 to shut up. Don't talk. He'll tell the story. So one of the cops asks what they're thinking about. And Chris says, I'm thinking about how I'm going to get that gun off your hip and get off this boat.
Really?
Yep.
Yes. Jackass.
Yes. So if you weren't suspicious, guess what?
Yeah.
You are now. The initial talk with Hannah was audio recorded on Chris the cop's phone.
I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm thinking.
100%.
Yeah.
And why are you not thinking about your friend? You're thinking about stealing a cop's gun and jumping off a boat? Why?
I'm going to tell you exactly what my plans are.
Who are you, Wade Wilson? Sorry, my bad. Now, this interview with Hannah is not an interrogation or anything official because Chris the cop has no jurisdiction here. Remember, he's from another county. But you can hear the confusion, I guess. You could say it's because in her words, she was hysterical. Like she says, I'm hysterical. But she says that Evan told her that Lauren said they had left her at the bar the night before, so she was going to go stay on a houseboat. And she said, I don't know if that was before or after I last saw her. So Chris said, but you canoed to the cliff together, right? And she says, yes. Well, wouldn't that mean that she went to the cliff, not stayed on a houseboat? I mean, come on.
Exactly.
It's like, what? Aaron said Lauren didn't come back to the camp at all Saturday night, so he didn't even remember canoeing back with her. Hannah would also say that Lauren left at 2 a.m. on a houseboat with some random guys. Nobody there says a houseboat left the marina at 2 a.m. and you can't really miss it. Houseboats are huge. And there's a bunch of people partying around there. So there's people everywhere. If you move your boat at 2 a.m, people's going to know. They're going to pay attention.
Yeah, because usually they're not quiet.
They're not quiet at all. And don't forget that all of Lauren's stuff is still at camp, including the flip-flops that she was wearing. Her phone, like all of her stuff is at the camp. Now, Chris the cop was one of the first people to the cliff camp after her body was found before they'd taped it off. He said Lauren's flip-flops were in front of a chair like she had just slipped them off when she sat down. Her zip-up hoodie was on the back of that chair. And this was at the campsite to the left where Lauren's hammock was. Later, when looking at the pictures in the police file, all of her stuff was lined up outside of the tent at the campsite to the right. So I guess when they were allowed to get their stuff, they also moved her stuff.
So they wasn't treating it like a crime scene or anything.
Oh, no. They might have like taped it off, but it was definitely not a crime scene. No.
Good night.
What would make you think that was a crime scene? Gosh, Darren.
Dead body.
Maybe that and all the different stories they're already getting. When they recorded an interview with Aaron days later, he then says that he last saw Lauren in the hammock. So originally he's like, she didn't even come back to camp. And then he's like, well, I went to bed. She was in the tent. So which one was it? He talks about her maybe falling off the cliff. He says that they had talked about her ex, Clint, and he told her that she reminded him of his crazy ex, Cassie. Now, Chris changed his story too. He then said that he had had sex with Lauren. So you really get nowhere with these stories except realizing that they're all lying. So we'll talk about the investigation and some other stuff that really sticks out. The medical examiner's report says that the death was caused by blunt force trauma. No question there. But it also says possible drowning. The manner of death was accidental. And this is just as bad as saying it was a suicide in these cases, because once you get that ruling, case closed. All done.
Did she have water in her lungs?
She had very little water in her lungs. She had no water in her stomach. And they say when you drown, you swallow a lot of water too. Yeah. So you're going to have water in your stomach and in your lungs. And also when people drown, their bodies sink.
But she was floating.
And this bothered Chris the cop. It still bothers him to this day. They say that she was dead before she went into the water. Had to be. The autopsy also showed her injuries, of course, but not all of them. They left some of them off. She had bruising on the front of her thighs, broken fingers, a broken nose. I mean, things you would expect to see if she fell off that cliff. But she also had hemorrhaging in her throat, what you see if someone is held down by the throat, not like strangulation. A sideways human bite mark was near her breast. A weird triangle shape, kind of at the bottom of the sternum, was there. It was kind of hard to see, but we've got some pictures where they actually darkened it, and you can actually see it. Her ribs were broken at the V area, but it said that that's probably what happened when they used a hook to pull her out of the water and then threw her onto the rescue boat. She had trauma to the back of the head that police talked about being indicative of her body weight falling on it. So there was spinal compression and that. So like if you fell on your head, you would see that kind because the weight of your body and gravity would come down. So that's what they're saying. Belief is that Lauren had a possible concussion from the cliff jumping incident earlier that day. And then her drinking, because of the blood alcohol level, it was like twice the legal limit. And they're saying that with those two things combined, it's more likely that she just was confused or discombobulated and fell off the cliff. Now, Chris the cop had told them that they needed to do a sexual assault kit. You see the weird bruising. You see the bite mark near her breast. He's like, you're going to need to do a sexual assault kit. If it was my case, I'm not trying to step on your toes, but you know, because in Tennessee, the cops have to request it. They don't just do it. Now, did the cops request it?
I'm guessing no.
No. The sheriff said Lauren was on her period and had a tampon in, so she couldn't have had sex.
Really?
That's what he said. I can't make that up. I've never heard of a tampon working like a chastity belt, and I haven't heard of it preventing a sexual assault ever in my life. I will say that it came out later that she was not on her period at the time. Keep that in mind. That was said by a private investigator, Sheila Wisaki. She did the podcast without warning. So if you want to deep dive on this case, that's a good place to go. She interviews all the people involved. She was involved in this journey since it started. And Lauren Season is case number 1. Now, in a videotape deposition, DeKalb County Detective Jeremy Taylor talked about his 2-month investigation. That's how long they looked into it. He said he did not listen to the 911 calls from that day, so he obviously didn't interview the people who made the calls. When asked why, he said, "I just didn't." He did not know when was the last time she was seen alive because he could never narrow that down. He didn't talk to the people who had houseboats docked closest to where the body was found. He didn't look for anything at the campsite that could have been used as a weapon, like rocks or anything that may have had, blood on it. He didn't look at the current on that day to see if it was even possible that Lauren fell off the cliff at her campsite and for her body to be able to make its way around to the other side of the cove. Because you've got this cliff. Hang on, here I am. I'm right here. You got this cliff. Lauren's camp was on this side of it. Her body was found in a cove on the other side, all the way in the back. So they're like, the current was going the opposite direction that night, according to hydrologists. So it was not possible for her body to have fallen off and her make her way into that cove. Now, by the time they actually talked to the other cliff campers, it was over a week later, and they admitted that they had talked to each other about the case the whole time, like the whole week.
So they didn't even talk to the guys who found her?
They didn't talk to the guys who found her. They didn't talk to nobody. They talked to the people
They was
that
just
were
ready to close it.
They were done.
They was just like, whatever.
Well, once you listen to the deposition of the cops and stuff that were involved, the guy who handled the investigation had no crime scene experience. He'd never handled a murder. He talks about his training, and it takes all of about 2.7 seconds to talk about all the training he's had. So it's like he was really, I don't know how he got promoted to detective, but he made it. Now on the podcast, there are clips of Sherry on the phone with law enforcement, and she's telling them that the clothes that Lauren was found in were not her clothes. A lot of people believe she had been wearing white shorts on Saturday night when they saw her, but her white shorts that she had taken with her were not at the camp. She was found wearing hot pink shorts, remember? And Lauren only owned one pair of pink shorts, and they were at home with Sherry. She didn't even take them with her. Her bra strap was twisted, which as a woman I can tell you is damn annoying. She had 3 clasps on the back of the bra and only one was hooked, the very top one. Now the weirdness of the clothes is enough to question if she dressed in a hurry or was dressed by someone else. Maybe she was concussed and drunk and ended up putting on Hannah's clothes on accident. But Hannah said those weren't her clothes either. Those were Lauren's clothes. So who knows best, Hannah or mom? Because her mom says she was still living at home and she didn't have a job. So everything that she was able to purchase, her mom is the one who purchased it for her. So she knew what she had and what she didn't. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Also keep in mind that if she fell off that cliff, you would expect to see maybe rips or tears in the clothes, maybe grass or twigs in her hair.
Something.
But there was nothing. The clothes were fine. They weren't dirty. There was nothing on them. Nothing. So let's talk about the theories. Now, obviously, the one theory is that she fell on accident in the middle of the night. The PI went up to the cliff with some other people and a dummy and tried all kinds of ways to recreate an accidental fall from different places and different heights, and it never ended up in the water. You would have to jump out, like when you're cliff diving, to actually hit the water after you jumped off the cliff. Now, I would expect that if she fell, also she would have yelled out. You know, if you're going to fall off a cliff in the middle of the night, you're going to yell something. Usually, fuck, if you're me. But you're going to yell something. And we know that they were able to yell up from the pier to tell people when to come get them from the cliff. So you could obviously hear that close. Now, had she yelled, you would think someone would have heard her.
Yeah,
But
you would hope so.
yeah, and maybe they did. But the cops never asked anybody.
Well, no.
And everybody who comes forward and says stuff, they don't seem to take it very seriously. So it's like, what do you want me to do? Another thing is the gully between the campsites. Remember I told you they were separated by a gully. The difference in height of these campsites is about 8 feet because of that gully. One theory is that she actually fell there, or that something happened on that cliff. She had the bruises on the front of her thighs, remember? So belief is that was from somebody pinning her down, like sitting on her or whatever, and pinning her down. So something could have happened accidentally, or someone hurt her on purpose and then freaked out. The triangle pattern on her chest, coincidentally, matches very closely to the stern of a canoe. So another theory is that they placed her on that, like held her body up on that, canoed back to that cove, and then threw her off into the water, hoping that maybe she'd be found way later after they left, after Wakefest. Now, everyone at the bar Saturday night says that that interacted with her, says that she was not that drunk, including Evan, who was with her until she went back to that cliff, remember? But her blood alcohol level was twice the legal limit. And she had asked at least 5 people to take her home that night because the other campers took and hid her keys so that she couldn't drive drunk. And this brings in the suspicion of the tampon. Remember? If she wasn't on her period, why did she have a tampon in? Well, some believe that maybe it was an alcohol-soaked tampon, right? That's a thing. That's a thing. And we'll never know because it was never tested and it wasn't kept because this was not a crime. Remember, it was an accident.
Would get in the bloodstream a lot quicker.
Exactly. So, yeah, but like I said, they did take it, remove it from her during the autopsy, but they did not keep it and they did not test it. So we have no idea and won't. Yeah. And another thing is that all her stuff is gone. The police processed her phone and her purse and turned it back over to the family. All of her clothes and other belongings disappeared and were never processed. Now on the 27th, so the day after Lauren's body was found, Chris the camper posted a picture on social media saying, Wakefest 2015 went pretty good this year. Met some new friends and that made it awesome.
It's fucking people.
He actually had a different, equally fucked up post and then changed it to that one, which is, it didn't get better, Chris. It didn't. When Chris left Wakefest that day, he called someone 6 times. But in his deposition, he couldn't remember who that was because it's way later now. Come to find out, it was a company that disposes of boats. Yeah. Hannah and Aaron moved to Florida right after this happened. They later got married and had a kid. The PI went to Florida and talked to Hannah. A man kept walking through while they were talking and even messed with the recording equipment. So you can hear like this noise on the recording when they're doing the podcast. And she says it's because he was messing with it. Now, this wasn't Aaron, but Aaron did end up calling Hannah. And you know when the phone is so loud on the other end that you can hear what that person is saying? Well, that's what they had going on. And she heard him tell Hannah to stick to the story. And when you read stuff on this, listen to the podcast, read articles, something is missing. Well, someone is missing. Back at the start of this case, I mentioned the name Bricks. He helped set up the camp, Aaron's friend. He also stayed at the camp all weekend, but he's not in any of their stories. But he seems to be there a lot. After Wakefest, he took off to the Bahamas. We know that. And he was the guy that was walking around while they were doing the interview for the podcast. And I'm pretty sure he's the one who told Aaron that the PI was there talking to Hannah, and that's why he called. And Aaron ended up showing up later before they were even done with the interview. Ooh. But the PI also got an anonymous tip that Briggs had something to do with Lauren's death and that the others helped cover it up.
Is it weird that he was there all weekend and stayed with them, but, he's not in any of the stories?
Not in any of the stories.
Like nobody once says this guy's name or wait, where's your friend?
No.
Where's the other guy?
They don't even bring him into the podcast till like episode 4 or 5.
Or any other camper there saying, oh yeah, it was these guys, but there was one more.
Yeah.
I don't know his name, but there was another guy here.
Instead, it's like they came into the bar. Who's they? It was Aaron, Hannah, Chris, and Lauren. Like it's always
like, so nobody.
Not till later.
Oh.
Yeah. They do end up, oh, well, Bricks, maybe, when they start asking about him, then they're like, oh, yeah, well, he did this or he did that. But yeah, for the first part of this, like they didn't even know that he existed. So weird. Another weird thing is that none of the campers came to Lauren's funeral. Chris, the camper, said that Aaron told them Sherry said that they couldn't come, but none of them had even talked to the family. Not to offer condolences, not to tell them to fuck off, nothing. And there's also a Hannah theory. Aaron had been texting Lauren that weekend. Actually, he's the one who texted Lauren like a week before Wakefest, telling her to tell Hannah to unblock him so that they could start talking again. And then next thing you know, they're together. Now, if Hannah had been so mad that Cassie had just told her about those text messages between her and Aaron that Hannah put hands on her, maybe she went through Aaron's phone and saw the messages to Lauren. So she started shit with her and it maybe got out of hand. Or Lauren fell in that gully and they all freaked out. I could go on all day with theories because there's a bunch. And there's just so much speculation because nobody actually looked for any evidence for anything else that could have happened. Sherry did file a wrongful death lawsuit in 2016 for $10 million against Aaron, Hannah, Chris, Bricks, and then like some John and Jane Does. Hannah's answers were almost all the same. Did you cause physical harm to Lauren? I plead the fifth. But they went back and forth until the case was dismissed in 2017. The FBI did look at the case, but closed it. And Sherry sent them a FOIA request for their information, all their stuff they gathered in the case. And they told her it would take 79 months.
6.5 years?
6.5 years.
Wow.
So she was like, okay, cool. I'll be waiting. And then they're like, okay, but it's also going to cost you $500.
Yeah, they're just trying to deter.
6.5 years? Come on. So Sherry, the PI, and some victim family members from other cases went to D.C. to meet with Congress and the Senate about a little thing called victims' rights.
Yep.
Congressman Scott, I can't even pronounce. Darren, you say that word. Do you see that word? Can you say that word?
The Harleys.
Congressman Scott agreed to look into rewriting the homicide victim rights bill. So yay for that. Congressman Mark Green agreed to look into the FBI's policies. So hopefully they can make a change because 6.5 years is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's where we are with this case. It's considered done. This is one that had heavy coverage like 4 or 5 years ago, but now not so much. And I think these cases are important to show that it's imperative to treat these deaths like a homicide until you prove otherwise. We've said it before. I'm a broken record. Maybe someday they will. They didn't even look to see if they could find where she fell off the cliff.
Or anything.
The cops could not tell you. The sheriff, they're like, where did she fall off? I don't know. And they're like, well, they threw a dummy off of it and couldn't get its land. He was like, probably because they weren't throwing it off in the right place. And they said, okay, where's the right place? And he's like, I don't know. Wow. Well, how do you know they're not throwing it off in the right place? I don't know.
You didn't try. You didn't do nothing.
Nothing.
Good night.
Anyways, that's Lauren's case. And I hope that they keep going because that's just too much. That's too much.
Yep.
Answers. Anyways, that was our first episode of the new year.
Hey. It is our new episode.
2025, y'all.
2025.
Hope it's going great so far.
Yep.
Your resolutions.
But if you guys would like to contribute to Murder with the Missus,
pod.
Yep. Here is our info. This is to go and help other people. Us. I mean, it's everything. It's for everything. It's for like to look into documents, to look into anything. I mean, it's just whatever we can do. And it's to help, eventually it's to help out victims, help them keep the cases going.
Like this one.
I mean, it's just one of them deals. A lot of these cases get shut down and then nobody talks about them anymore. And it's just one of them deals where we're trying to keep them going. So
keep them out there.
Like, share, subscribe. Don't forget, tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
All right. Till next time.
Bye.